But one of the things that I am clear on is that it really matters how we think about our breathing. And I think the real key is it's possible to, especially if you have a lung condition, to sort of be controlled by your breathing. And the polar opposite of that is what Larkin tries to get people to do, which is to exert control over your own breathing. So I think that when you empower someone to take control of their breathing, you can really change their physiology and how they function and what they're able to do. Andrew Weil talks a lot about the idea that we have two body systems, you might say. The autonomic nervous system, which takes care of the automatic pilot, you might say, for all kinds of body functions, the heartbeat and specifically the breathing. We all have been sitting here breathing on our own without thinking about it for the last 20 minutes. But the respiratory system is unique because we also have voluntary control. And so by exercising that voluntary control through breathing maneuvers like what Larkin teaches, you can actually, I think, alter the nervous system. And that is really, I think, well shown even in scientific studies that we can improve patients' relaxation and how they feel by doing this kind of work. That what really makes it helpful to people is that it almost creates a reset of the nervous system. To pause, to drown, to let all the other worries of the world disappear, and to just focus on your breathing. It's almost like turning the switch off and turning it back on again. It's a reset. And so it changes how you feel and how you feel about what's going on. And so, I mean, you can have two patients, for example, both with a lung condition. And one might be completely disabled. And if you did a pulmonary function test, the other they might have the same sort of pulmonary function test, but the other person is able to do stuff like climb up and down stairs and do things. And oftentimes it's because of how they think about their breathing. That's why I think it's so essential.
It's interesting, I was listening to a really great Pilates instructor teach new upcoming instructors yesterday, and she said your core is your breathing. And it is. And the reason why it is, I feel, is that your transverse abdominals, which are your deepest layer of the four muscle groups of the abdominal muscles near the spine, well, they are the only layer of abdominal muscles that connect to your diaphragm and to your lower back. And so you must get plenty of volumes of air in and plenty of air out, and it's on the exhalation or exertion that you deepen your core abdominal muscles. And not just your abdominal muscles, but to really use your core, you have to get that diaphragm moving up and down fully, and you have to use your pelvic floor muscles and integrate all the aspects that involve the core center of the body. A wheelchair-bound gentleman that I worked with in a pool, and I used visual imagery and the foundation exercise to help him move his abdominal muscles. And he started crying. And the reason why was because he found through the power of visual imagery and his mind-body connection that he could actually move part of his body. And his feedback later was it helped his digestion, his sleep patterns, his metabolism, because he was now sending his abdominals toward his organs that lie behind the abdominal wall. And then, of course, I've got to mention my ballet dancers, because they use breath and core and the foundation exercise and all the techniques in practical centering to protect their body, to have more reserves of power that they need for the moves they do and for the number of hours they rehearse, for stamina, for injury prevention, for taking care of overuse syndromes to protect them from that, but more importantly, to move authentically from the inside outward. And you can really tell the difference between a dancer who is a feeling dancer versus a technician. And by using your core, you're actually involving your solar plexus, your heart, and where all our emotions are felt. And then a dancer's able to express themselves on stage better by using this process. An Ironman, who could have better aerobic capacity and breathing capability, but they weren't conscious of using their breath when they were training, and they weren't conscious of using the center of their body. They were working from a limb orientation. They were moving their arms and legs and not integrating it to their core, and they were starting to have overuse syndromes and possible surgeries down the road. But when they started making their core and their breath a priority, their whole body became integrated and centered, hence the name of the book. To put it simply, visual imagery is the use of a mental picture to accomplish a physical task. And Olympic athletes have used it for a long time to do the incredible feats that they do to accomplish it. They use visualization. We can use it every day to help us breathe better, have a stronger core, relax our muscles, pinpoint tension, chronic tension patterns and places in our body that we might have, usually in the upper body, the shoulders, the neck. And it's just an incredible tool to help you connect to your mind, body.
Stress is something that we all live with. And if we live with a particular kind of an illness, then that is often a source of stress. And one of the things that we know from Western medicine is that stress itself can become an illness. It can overshadow an illness. It can drive an illness. And so I think that really cuts to the heart of why doing this kind of work that Larkin is doing is transformational for patients, because it offers a way for them to deal with stress. And we can actually see physical effects when someone is calm, their heart rate slows, and of course this happens through slowing the respirations down. And so I think that's a big piece of it. And I think a second aspect of it is that in the world of spirit, when people have a spiritual experience, whatever that means to you, it's something that kind of happens in a space of quietness. And that's what this work is all about, in a sense. I mean, she's created visual images and pictures to try to help take you out of all those things that are driving you crazy and that are vexing your spirit, you might say. Well, I think that, her images are compelling, and her vivacity and love are also, she draws you in, and even when you read her writing, you can feel it. And I think that it's complex and subtle because what she really writes is accessible to people that grow up in our culture. And so it's easy to see and to picture the muscle groups, and the way she describes them with balloons and for example, and so it kind of gives a sort of picture that people respond to in a way that I think other teachers attempt, even spiritual teachers, and it kind of goes over your head if you don't, live in our culture. I think that, again, when you're at the end of life, and many of my patients face this, I do a lot of care for patients with lung cancer. it's a time where the things that you've been putting off start to come up. Maybe there's relationships that have been undone. Maybe there are things that have been unsaid, or maybe things that you should have said and wished you had have said, or things that you regret. Things that you want to try to leave for people that you're going to leave behind. And I think that working with the breath and slowing the breath down and having that quiet place allows for that kind of stuff to come to the surface and settle in a way that can be really transformational for people. Well, I think that it comes back to that idea of actually being in control of your breathing, as opposed to letting your breathing control you. And so, even with the most severe disability, if there's consciousness, usually we can control some aspect of our breathing. And that very fundamental essence of who we are as human beings is what Larkin uses in her work.
And then what happens is you need to know that you're going to get benefits from it and results, or you're not going to want to do it. And so you mentioned the total person. Well, what you'll notice is that you go from mental sluggishness to mental clarity, emotional anxiety to emotional equilibrium, with longer and longer periods of peace, and physical aches and pains that we all think we have to live with them, but we don't. We can't let them make homes in our body. We have to go after them and make them dissipate and let go of the tension patterns. And so that's replaced with physical strength and relaxation. And from that, when you were talking about spirit, brings you a sense of resilience and calm and joy for living, and increases your quality of life, and a sense of wellness and security and safety from within. Much of the Western world is outwardly focused on our computers, on our cell phones, on our busy lives, and these exercises allow you to come into your home, which is your body, and check into it. We spend a lot more time, I know we do, maintaining our car as our vehicle. But we have this vehicle which is our home, and certainly coming from a dance background, you know it's your vehicle of expression. And from all those years of dance and teaching all these wonderful people that have stayed consistent to these exercises and realizing they're creating mastery over their body versus depletion, I've realized that it's all about giving yourself permission to take those quick breathing breaks, to turn within just a little bit each day and be consistent with it. Just like brushing your teeth, the importance of brushing your teeth and eating nutritionally and getting plenty of sleep. For some reason in our culture, we don't emphasize the importance of breathing. And that's our most immediate life-sustaining force.